Hello and welcome to a new week on Mustard Sport. This is 3 Up Front, your 3-word verdicts on the Norwich City action. And we have a win, people, a win. Good news. Joining me in the studio this week are the head of sport here at Archer Norfolk, Chris Lakey, and Norwich City fan and future radio sports commentator, Phil Arms. Gentlemen, lovely to see you.
Michael.
Good to have you in. Okay then, so Norwich did just about the only thing they could to make it a more comfortable international break, and that was win. They beat Southampton 1-0 at Carrow Road on Saturday for 3 precious Premier League points, their first 3-point haul of the new season. So your 3 up front 3-word verdicts will be on the screen in a moment, which means, gentlemen, we need yours. So, Chris, what do you got for us? 3 up front.
I struggled on this one, but I thought I'd probably upset some people by saying Hail St Nathan. It's
a Fenland village.
It's a Fenland village, honestly. I do it for obvious reasons, because of Nathan Redmond. I think the boy's got something that I haven't seen for a few years. The last bloke who had what he's got was very successful here and made the club very successful, and I think without trying to over-egg a young man, I think there is a huge star in the making there. And I'm not trying to get on a bandwagon. I really do believe he's a big star in the making. You
might get a card in the post from Darren Huckabee, though.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Yeah. How did you know I was referring to Darren Huckabee?
Just a hunch. How about you, Phil? What you got?
Work in progress.
Oh,
the reason I say that, I believe that Chris Hughton has started to put his indelible mark on the team. He's certainly changed the squad over the summer, and if you look at the starting lineup, it doesn't bear any resemblance to what we saw just 6 months ago. But I do believe that it's, as we all know in football, it's the sum of the parts, as opposed to the odd star, Nathan Redmond aside, of course. But I believe that there are still things that are not quite working correctly. We've seen it in the opening match against Everton. We certainly saw it at Hull. And I believe that there were areas of the game on Saturday against Southampton that still need to be polished up and just honed a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get stuck into a few of those. Nathan Redmond, Chris, 19 years old, which probably makes it all the more exciting, I suppose. It's away with the England under-21s this week. Is he a little bit unlucky maybe that he's not closer to the England setup, or do you think if he keeps playing the way he is?
Yeah, I suppose with Oxlade-Chamberlain injured for quite some time, people are going to look at the impact he made at the weekend, or in fact the impact he's made this season since he's joined Norwich, and immediately put him in the frame. I sort of hope he doesn't really. I'm a big one for... there's a whole new debate here about the England setup. I think the way that things are done at the moment is pretty rubbish, but there you go. That's for another day.
We'll save it for another programme, yeah.
But I think, I suppose in a way, not knowing him, I'm not sure whether it would do him good or harm, and therefore good or harm to Norwich, because, you can over-egg something and it can harm the player, he can be too overconfident. I don't know his temperament, I don't know his character. And we're only just seeing it come out now. What we do know is he's a very good young footballer. What we hope to see that is he continues to be a very good footballer who develops and performs well for Norwich. We have seen youngsters come and go in a flash. We don't want that with him. No. So, I'm sure Chris Hughton knows how to treat him because he's had experience with him before. So there's no doubt he's a great little talent. And again, something we haven't seen for a while. A lot of Premier League teams don't like these individuals anymore. I was wondering the other day, where have all the individuals gone? There aren't as many, it doesn't sound odd, individuals as there used to be. And I think we're bereft of that. I think the Premier League needs more Nathan Redmond.
Be interesting between him and Raheem Sterling. I think they're the two interesting ones in terms of England. 2 big handball shouts and a 3rd penalty shout, foul on Robert Snodgrass on Saturday. Howard Webb seemed to just sort of, I don't want to say bottle it really.
Well, I only actually saw one handball shout, and that was the Bradley Johnson incident. And I don't think there's any argument about it. It was a penalty.
No.
Stonewall penalty. How he didn't give it, I don't know. I'm grateful that he didn't.
Yes.
If you refer to the second handball, I guess was in the Southampton area there. That was never a penalty. It was one of those, it hit him and it was going to hit him on the chest and his hands happened to be in front of his chest. So for me, there was never a penalty there. The Snodgrass one at the end, another Stonewall penalty, and that was just Howard Webb's way of equaling up the situation. And what was I told when I was a little boy? 2 wrongs don't make a right.
Well, this is it, exactly. I mean, it's an interesting one. Robert Snodgrass obviously went to ground quite a lot last season. It'll be interesting to see if that...
I don't think the going to ground thing is anything to do with it. I think it was just a case of there was less than a minute left on the clock. Howard Webb saw no reason to give the penalty because he knew he'd missed one in the first half, and therefore it was his way of keeping the slate clean.
Exactly. You're right, he bottled it. That's the evidence that says he bottled it.
Yeah. He bottled
a minute from time, he wouldn't give it. Crazy.
There's 2 3 up fronts you come up with now, Chris. I like it.
He bottled it.
He bottled it.
I'll save that for next time. How he comes to the Carra.
He'll probably be able to use it again. I'm pretty sure. A lot of talk about Nathan Redmond. Leroy Fair walked away with the man of the match champagne. I'm sure you guys have both been impressed with this guy. Wow. He's still only 23 and apparently he still doesn't think he's fit yet.
Really?
Yeah.
That's frightening.
It is.
Not for anybody of a yellow persuasion.
No.
Do you know what? He's one of those players you only have to look at a few times and you think, wow, you can just recognise the beauty in the way he plays, and it is. He's strong. He's got all the skills that you would say would be an ideal midfield footballer. And the worrying thing is that he can play in several different places. I think there'll be fans who'll say, "Oh, he should be playing there. He should be playing there." I don't think he's going to let you down wherever he plays. He really does look like a fantastic signing.
Fantastic. And Phil, just want to touch on the things. Obviously, you think there are some things maybe that Norwich need to work on. Can you just give us a couple of points that you'd like to see them just
Well, one of the areas I felt in the first half that was very, very noticeable was the big gap between the front line and the middle. We actually played 4-4-2 to a certain degree. I know there was a bit of flexibility within that, but that was what many fans have been screaming for, 2 up front. Supposedly it was 4-4-1-1, but I didn't see too much. There was a gap between the middle 4 and the forwards, and on a couple of occasions it was enormous. And when Almanda and a couple of times when RVW got the ball, they turned, they looked, and there was no one near them. Yeah. And I think that's something that really does need to be sorted out. Okay. I'd just like to come back to the Leroy Fair thing though, because one of the things when I was had the privilege to talk to Chris Hughton about it a couple of weeks ago, and I was interviewing him and I spoke to him about Leroy Fair, and I suggested to him he was a box-to-box midfielder. And he didn't answer my question, he just had a big smile on his face.
We're getting there, I think. We're getting there. Gentlemen, we'll wrap it up there. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you all for watching. We will be back with the first of this season's Talk is Cheap later in the week, so keep an eye out for that. Norwich, of course, back in action after the international break, so we won't have a 3 up front next week, but we will have pundits predict and all the usual fun and games coming up next week. But Talk is Cheap coming up later in the week. Until then, goodbye.